fans, welcome back to Room 237, back with another review. As I continue my month of October run through of Stephen King adaptations, and this is another one from the 2000s, one of the better ones from the 2000s, that I'm pretty sure everyone has seen. And it's mostly known for its ending, which I'm not going to spoil, but I'm pretty sure it's one of those endings where even if people haven't seen the movie, it's so talked about that I'm pretty sure everyone knows what happens. It's one that I've seen before at least a couple times, but even now, still watching it again, the ending still delivers just that gut punch. Uh, it's from 2007, and the first time I saw it, I was just kind of, maybe a little too sci fi. Because when I first saw it, I thought it was aliens. It's not. I definitely appreciate it more now, actually being into Lovecraft, which I don't think I was at the time. It's not based on anything Lovecraft, but the creatures are definitely Lovecraftian. And is directed by Frank Darabont. It's actually written for the screen and directed by Frank Darabont, who, kind of like Mick Garris, has done a number of Stephen King adaptations. Only Frank Darabont's are actually good. He he's done Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, and in 2007 he did The Mist, which I mean he's known for other films like he co-wrote Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and I picked this up because it was really cheap, but I do wish I picked up the Blu-ray because originally, excuse me, Frank Darabont wanted to shoot this in black and white. Now, of course, typical modern audiences, your everyday audiences, can't handle black and white. It's either too bland and boring, too artsy fartsy, too pretentious, or it's just too icky, and they don't like it. They will not watch shit that's black and white, which I find disgusting. But the Blu-ray has the director's cut or the preferred version, which is the exact same movie, just black and white. And honestly, I think black and white would have helped this film. I still haven't seen it. This DVD did come with it. But because this is a throwback essentially to the 1950s sort of B movie horror film, it, Darabont was inspired by. I mean, the story is pretty close to like ones like Night of the Living Dead, which I think that was the film that inspired him to do it in black and white. But also, it has that feel of movies like The Blob or Invasion of the Body Snatchers, just those classic B movies with a small town overrun by a huge threat. Also inspired by the black and white works of Ray Harryhausen. He himself has even made parallels to like John Carpenter's The Thing, stuff like that. So definitely a lot of really good influences. And at first, I thought the CGI just looked really bad. And yeah, they do look dated. But since this is, like a 50s B movie throwback, and inspired by Ray Harryhausen, I think that CGI, the dated CGI, actually helps the film. It'll be a rare case where I do say that. And there is this underlying feel of camp to this movie. I mean, yes, it is incredibly serious. It is very dark, but it does have this camp element. I mean, all the characters are kind of caricatures of certain characters. I mean, like Thomas Jane being the hero, or what the hell is her name? Uh, Marcia Gay Harden being the typical king religious zealot. They're all kind of caricatures, and yeah, when the creatures do attack, you do have your schlocky type moments, but this does very much feel like a 1950s B movie made in 2007. And I really do think that the dated CGI would have really helped it. And the black and white definitely would have helped it. Unfortunately, our spoiled, rotten modern audiences need everything modern. They need everything perfect. They need everything 5K Ultra HD, and black and white is just for old people. Now, it's based on the 1980 short story, which was not collected in a King book, but a book called Dark Forces, which was a collection of different authors. And it stars Thomas Jane, who of course was the Punisher. He was in Deep Blue Sea. I would still say my favorite role of his was in Boogie Nights. Marcia Gay Harden, who I really liked in Mystic River. Uh, uh, Nathan Gamble, Andre Brower, Toby Jones, Frances Sternhagen, who I really like. She was in Raising Cain and Misery. And then you have Frank Darabont regulars, William Sadler, and Jeffrey DeMunn, who I think people will know Jeffrey DeMunn from The Walking Dead. William Sadler was in Shawshank Redemption. He was also Death in the Bill and Ted movies. Ron Schmidt did the cinematography, and Mark Isham did the music. Made for 18 million, grossed at 57.3, and it's one of those movies that, yes, this is a monster movie. It is a creature feature with monsters outside in the mist. Which, side note, not to be confused with The Fog, the 2005 piece of shit, The Fog. I've made that mistake. Someone I was with at one point, they really wanted to see this because they heard about the ending. I was living with some friends. I was like, oh, here it is. Let's watch it. Brain fart. It was The Fog. Much better movie. But it's one of those movies that not a whole lot of attention is drawn to the monsters. I mean, yes, they attack, they kill, they look scary. They're creatures, they're monsters. They're from some other dimension. They are the threat. But it's really just about the monsters that people become. When push comes to shove and there's just a group of people in some kind of disaster or crisis, what happens under pressure? I mean, there's usually like a fight for control, there's a divide, there's people who just are willing to give up and just give their full attention and hope to something. And that's really what this movie delves into. It's not just about the monsters outside. It's about just what happens to people when a crisis becomes too great. And, I mean, this movie wastes no time getting to it. It's just a hair over 2 hours, 126 minutes. I'd say within the first 10, 15 minutes, we are in the supermarket. Jeffrey DeMunn runs towards the building. Some blood, screaming, help, there's something in the mist. And then the mist engulfs the supermarket, and then we're trapped there. And there's a lot of people in this. It's not like Night of the Living Dead where there's like 5 or 6 people that we have to watch dwindle down. I mean, there's a bunch of people in this store. And really, you kind of have the rational side and the just doomsday religious zealot side. And the arc is, okay, everyone's going to kind of listen to Thomas Jane, who's the rational one. He's the rational survivalist. Marcia Gay Harden is just seen as the loudmouth religious nut that everyone's tired of listening to. But after multiple creature attacks and deaths and, just things getting worse with no sign of things getting better, more and more people are starting to turn towards Marcia Gay Harden because she's able to preach off things of hope, and if you repent, I can help you. And what's really interesting is that even though she's very convincing as just this fanatic, it does kind of show the possibility of, okay, does she really fully believe this? or is she also kind of doing this for, you know, personal gain? Like, does she want to be seen as the vessel of God? Does she want to be the one that can be the Christly ruler? I think so. But this movie is shot very well. I know Darabont didn't want to shoot on digital because he thought it would look too beautiful, in his words. So we shot it on some older camera. I think it was. I'm not terribly good with. One second. Oh, also, Lord of the Flies, he drew parallels to, along with the Twilight Zone episode, the monsters are due on Maple Street, which really just shows people turning on each other. It's one of my favorite episodes of Twilight Zone. Uh, where the hell? Oh, 400 ASA Fujifilm, which helped give it more of like a grainy, classic look to it. But it was also shot by a TV crew, the crew that made the show The Shield, which is why it kind of has that TV movie look, and there's a lot of sort of fade to black, fade in from black, almost as if there's commercial breaks in there, which I thought gave it a unique feel to it. There are some cool camera angles in here as well. I know there was a TV show called The Mist on Spike. I didn't watch it. I'm not even sure what people thought of it while it was on. Sneeze. Excuse me. And really, you are just kind of watching this Lord of the Flies-esque downfall of these people and what happens to them. Some of my favorite scenes are the ones that are actually shot in the mist. I mean, there's a scene when a few of them decide to go to the next door pharmacy to get some supplies after this one creature attack. So a few of them go over, and I love the way the pharmacy sequence is shot. It did remind me very much of John Carpenter's The Thing, where you can't even see the walls around them. It's just dark, just complete darkness, fog. You really just see the beams of flashlights. And it just creates this very dreadful, atmospheric, just the sense, an atmospheric sense of dread, I guess is what I was trying to say. And I love how that's done. Also, it feels like The Thing because that's when we're introduced to like these spider creatures. I mean, we start off with like this black-fanged tentacle thing grabbing the Shermanator from American Pie. And then we got like the giant locust looking things on the window, and then like the chicken pterodactyl looking things that break through. And then when they decide to go to the pharmacy, that's when we see the spiders, which Greg Nicotero, one of the biggest effects artists out there from K&B, one of the proteges of Tom Savini, he helped come up with not just the like gore effects and the makeup effects, but also the creature designs, along with, I want to get the guy's name. Of course, I can never find it when I'm actually looking for it. It drives me nuts how I can never just find what I'm looking for when... Oh. Jordu Shell and Bernie Wrightson, the of Illustrator, brought into... Well, I guess they did the concept art, and then Greg Nicotero kind of helped create them. And Everett Burrell, which they went through like the history of horror to make sure they weren't coming up with some very like too similar creatures. Even though the spiders, especially the scene in the pharmacy, very close to the thing, especially the one with the bigger spider kind of walks across the doorway. But they are creepy looking. I mean, they're like spiders and flies, but they have like scully faces with like rows of what looks like human teeth. But they're very Lovecraftian, especially when you see the giant god-like one. It's very Lovecraftian, which I'm very into. Also, the opening of the film has Thomas Jane creating these uh, movie posters, and the one he's working on is supposed to be like the Dark Tower. That's like a Clint Eastwood looking character with the Dark Tower in the background, and then recreations of the Thing poster and Pan's Labyrinth, which was done by what was his name, Drew Sturl. If I remember that correctly. I, drives me nuts how I can never just find what the hell I'm looking for. What I should just Drew Struzan, excuse me. So it just kind of nods right there that the Thing is going to be a main influence. But I also love Night of the Living Dead. You have you know Stay Up Here, Stay in the Cellar. Just that divide of what people should do. And I really do like the look of the creatures. Again, the CGI is very dated, but there is just this over the top camp element throughout the film that I think helps that. And again, I think the black and white really would have helped it. It's a very focused film. I mean, even though there are a lot of people, there are a lot of characters, it still feels very focused. God, this thing's breaking up all over me. I apologize. Uh, it still feels very focused. I mean, there's really just a small group of people that we're focusing on, with just a bunch of background people. But I do like stories where it is this sort of Lord of the Flies, like, of I'm in control, they all follow me, you'll be cast out, or we have to regain control. And then it really just leads up to the ending, which is, all I'll say is very, it's not that it's different from the ending, it's expanded upon. Because if I remember correctly, the ending of the story just kind of stops, whereas this kind of has an ending, which I'm going to get into now. So, and I'm pretty sure it's just one of those endings that even if people haven't seen it, they've heard of it because I know a lot of people talk about it. It is one of the most punching endings that I can think of. But as far as especially more newer Stephen King films, as far as like the 2000s, this is one of the better ones. This is one that I've grown to appreciate over time. It's not what I liked a whole lot when I first saw it, but coming to appreciate its influences and knowing that it's supposed to be this the 50s B throwback, and see what it could have been. I mean, you look at the cover of the Blu-ray, which is the one that I put in the thumbnail, and then consider the dated effects if they had black and white. It looks like a modern 1950s movie. But then they make it color and they put this generic cover on it. It really takes away what Frank Darabont wanted to do. But studios know what modern audiences want, and they want new. They don't want throwbacks because it's too icky and old and artsy and modern. I could make an hour-long video on why modern audiences are ruining film. But anyway, this is one I've grown to appreciate. Definitely, as far as ones in the 2000s, it is one of the better ones. So now I'm going to get into spoilers. So eventually, it gets to the point where Marcia Gay Harden is actually having people sacrifice people to appease the wrath of God. One of which is a soldier who was the one that wanted to be the ice truck killer in season 1 of Dexter. which is also when we find out that there was some project with scientists in the military about opening up portals to other dimensions. It was open too long, and this happened. I like how it's vague, though. I mean, if it was any other movie, we would get a flashback showing how it happened, showing what the portal looks like, creatures coming in and out. Whereas here, it just kind of happens, and I appreciate that a lot more. So they throw him out, he's cast out, and then when she wants to sacrifice Thomas Jane's young son, which he is trying to protect the whole movie, but he's also just trying to pass him off to other people throughout the whole movie. And yes, I would say Thomas Jane is the most rational of the film, debatable up until the end because you know this group of outcasts, the ones that will not follow the cult, if you will, which William Sadler went from one side to the other. That when they try to sacrifice his young son, the one supermarket cashier that they trust with the pistol because he's the best shot shoots her, which is very satisfying. She's the kind of character you want to see get it, kind of like Christabella in the Silent Hill film. Just because she's so full of herself and her faith, but you feel like there's some self gratification in there as well. That they decide to make a run for it, or they try to get to his Jeep, which can fit a lot of people. Some of them are killed off in the process. That you have Thomas Jane, Laurie Holden, who is actually Officer Sybil in Silent Hill. Jane Holden, uh, uh, his young son, Jeffrey DeMunn, and Frances, I always forget her last name, Sternhagen. They all make it to the Jeep, they drive, and they just see the mist-covered destruction of New England or Maine. It takes place in Bridgeton. That they drive till they run out of gas. And I will say this is not just the most effective because of what happens, but the way it's paced. I mean, he comes to a stop. We see he's out of gas. They all just kind of look at each other. He takes out the pistol, counts the bullets. There's 5 of them, but 4 bullets left. And there's just this extreme close-up on Thomas Jane as he looks at everyone, and they all just kind of nod in acceptance. Their fate. And I like how they don't show it. It makes it more effective. I know there's going to be people, these just surface level people that say, well, they should have shown it. It would have been bloodier. It would have been. It's more effective if you see it. No, it's more effective with the camera down low outside of the Jeep. With you just see the flash and hear the muffled shot of the pistol. 1, 2, 3, 4. So then when we cut back inside to Thomas Jane and he has his breakdown, he just killed his son and everyone that was with him. Where the gut punch is that when he goes outside to give himself to these creatures, which by this time we see the giant, kind of like if Cthulhu was like a quadruped type creature. Like huge ass legs, then like a tentacly body, but giant. Just as he thinks something's come to get him, he looks, and then out of the mist we see an army tank, it's soldiers, trucks with survivors, and just the realization of how he was literally like 10 seconds away from salvation. That's a gut punch. Now, I guess the moral is don't give up on hope, but it has this very cynical feeling to it as well. Especially since on the truck full of survivors is this uh, one woman who I know is in The Walking Dead. She leaves the store in the very, very beginning of the movie because she says she has to get to her kids. And she made it. And she's with her kids on the truck. And now Thomas Jane is without his son. It's just a very gut punchy ending. And although it also does do a good job showing right off the bat just kind of how dog eat dog, or how you got to look out for yourself people can be when a crisis gets to be the worst. Because when that one woman wants to leave the store, she's like, I have to get to my kids. Is anyone going to help me? And everyone just kind of looks down. And she even starts looking at people, like specifically, like, you? You? And everyone just kind of looks away and ignores her, like, I ain't helping you. I'm staying here where I'm safe. Or if I want to be over the top like some other people, they're looking at her like, bitch. No way. No way, motherfucker. I'm staying right here. Fuck that shit, bitch. They don't say that. It's not more effective this way. Um, so, yeah, it does a great job at just showing the downfall of the community, and then just what happens when people need something to hope for or to believe in, or just different methods of survival. There's just stay and pray. Then there's fight and survive. I didn't even talk about like some of the kills, like the creature, like when they get to the pharmacy and we just see the people just webbed to the ceiling and the walls. That's really creepy looking. Especially the one guy that's still alive. Like when he undoes his shirt, there's just all these egg sacs under his skin. That when he finally falls off the wall, he just bursts and all little spiders come out of him. This movie does have more balls than your typical movie. I mean, when they're just driving around at the end, they come across this school bus that's full of webs inside, and there's just one young girl covered in web inside. Which also, cool idea to have the webbing be like acid. Like it wraps around this one guy's leg, cuts right through his pants, and starts cutting through his leg, almost like the blood of a xenomorph. So really cool ideas for not just what the monsters and creatures look like, but what they do and what they're capable of. Does a really good job at just showing the downfall of the community, whether it be people giving up on everyone individually, looking out for themselves, or really just giving up on hope and putting beliefs in something crazy, or choosing to fight, all the way down to, to the final moment where it's just like, we have nothing left. It's easier to do this, or do we just sit here and possibly face a worse fate? But then it has that never give up hope, and then that one moment from the beginning where everything worked out fine. And even though it was done by a TV crew, it still looks great. I mean, I love the grainy look, and it really is a shame that he couldn't make this black and white as he intended. Because it already looks and feels like a 1950s B movie throwback, tribute, homage, whatever you want to call it. Whether it be with the camp element of the characters, the creatures, and the creature effects. Again, with the dated CGI, helps it give that B movie look. But they had to make it color and give it sort of a generic cover. I will pick up the Blu-ray at some point just to check out the black and white version. But, yeah. Stephen King's The Mist, one I've grown to appreciate over time, and is one of the better ones to come out in the 2000s. So I got plenty more Stephen King films to get to. There's going to be more that I'll be picking up throughout the month of October. So stay tuned for those, and thank you for watching.